So today's lesson is lesson 3-1. It's add integers. So if you had 3 apples and your friend gives you 2 more apples, how many apples do you have? 5. Very good. Now keep an eye on this. Pay attention very closely. So you have 3 apples. Your friend gives you 2 more apples. How many apples do you have? You have 5 apples. Here, if you had one candy, you have 1 candy, and your friend gives you 2 more candies, how many candies do you have? 3 candies. Is everybody clear? Now, what else do you notice on these apples and candies? Pluses and minuses. The pluses are the positives, and the minuses are the negatives. So, keep in mind, please listen. If you have 3 positives, and you gain 2 more positives, how many positives are you going to have? 5 positives. Is everybody clear with that? So, here, if I had 3 positives, and I get 2 more positives, we end up with positive 5. Is everybody clear with that? Down here, with the negatives. If we have 1 negative, and we gain, or we add 2 more negatives, we end up with 3 negatives, negative 3. So negative 1 plus negative 2 is equal to negative 3. So the sum is positive if both integers are positive. And the sum is negative if both integers that you are adding are negative. Now, when we're looking at this, what do you notice? So what do I do with the actual digits to get my final sum? You just add them together. So example 1 is add integers with the same sign. Make sure you write your heading and your examples. So here we want to find negative 7 plus negative 5. So what is it that I need to do with the 7 and the 5? We just add them together. So what's 7 plus 5? 12. And because both of my integers are negatives, my answer is going to be negative. So negative 7 plus negative 5 is equal to negative 12. So here we have a negative 5 plus a negative 11. And again, we're going to, what am I going to do with those digits? You're just going to add them. So 5 plus 11 is 16. And again, because they are both negative, my answer is going to be negative 16. Is everybody clear?
Yeah.
Now, look at the note that I have down here. It says, notice that the negative integers that come after the operation is in parentheses. The reason it is in parentheses is just to separate the operation and the sign. That's it. Example 2 is find additive inverses. Now we talked about this before. What are additive inverses? Additive inverses are what? Opposites. So if I have 4, the additive inverse would be negative 4. Opposites are called additive inverses. Okay? So what do you get when you add opposites? All right, so to illustrate this, 4 plus negative 4, or this positive, this number plus its additive inverse, we're going to start with a positive 4. So starting at 0, we're going to move to the right. So there's my positive 4. Now, when I add a negative, which way am I going to move on my number line? Back to the left. we're going to move to the left. So from where we started off, at that positive 4, we're going to go back. We're going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And where do we end up? At 0. So positive 4 plus negative 4 is equal to 0. Make sure you write this down. A number plus its opposite is equal to 0. A number plus its opposite is equal to 0. So, what are the additive inverses of these? So, the additive inverse of negative 12 is 12. Very good. The additive inverse of negative 15 is 15. And the additive inverse of positive 9 is negative 9. Very good. So, if you add a number plus its additive inverse, you are going to get 0. So for this example, we have a positive 5 plus a negative 3. Now again, if we're going to put the positive 5 on there, we're going to start at the 0, and we're going to move 5 units to the right. So this green arrow represents the positive 5. Then, from where we left off, we're going to add a negative, which means that we're going to, since we're adding a negative, we're going to move to the left. So we're going to move 3 units, 1, 2, 3 to the left, and where do I end up? I end up at 2. Is everybody clear with that? So here, this is going to be, is that a positive or a negative? Positive 2. Got it? So this next one here, we've got a negative 6 plus 2. Negative 6 plus a positive 2. So we're going to put that negative 6 on there. So we start at the origin. We go to the left 6. And then we're going to add 2. So we go to the right 2. And where do we end up? We end up at negative 4. Okay? So here my answer is negative 4. What do you notice about the actual math here? Okay, so if I'm looking at this 5 plus negative 3, 5 plus negative 3, I'm going to ask you, how do I get that 2 from a 5 and a 3? What do? You just subtract. So 5 minus 3 is 2. Is everybody clear with that? Now, what kind of 2 is this? That's a positive 2. Now notice this. With that 3 and that 5, which one is bigger? The 5 is bigger. And what kind of 5 is that? That is a positive 5. So that is going to be a positive 2. Is everybody clear with that? Yeah. If I look down here, okay, we want to look at the 6 and the 2. So how do I get the 4 from the 6 and the 2? You just subtract. So 6 minus 2 is 4. But then again, we want to look at which one is bigger. Which one is bigger, the 6 or the 2? The 6 is bigger. What kind of sign is that? That is a negative. And that's why my answer is going to be a negative. So to find the sum of integers with different signs, you subtract the digits and take the sign of the bigger digit. Example 3 is add integers with different signs. So this is a positive plus a negative, or a negative plus a positive. Okay? So, for 11 plus negative 4, again, what do I do to those digits? You just subtract them. When you have different signs, you subtract, right? So, 11 minus 4 is? It's 7. It is 7. Now, which one is bigger? The 11 or the 4? Which one is bigger? The 11 or the 4? So 11 is bigger, and what kind of sign is that 11? That is a positive. So this is going to be a positive 7. Is everybody clear?
Yep.
Now, I want to let you know, do you need to write that plus in front? No, you don't need to write that plus in front. I only wrote it there just to emphasize that it is a positive. So, for example, B, 3B, we have negative 22 plus 10. Negative 22 plus 10. So, again, what do I need to do with those digits? No, you subtract them. Different signs, we subtract. Maybe you should write this in your heading. So different signs, subtract the digits. Subtract the digits. Because that's the second time somebody said add. So subtract the digits. So 22 minus 10, of course, is? What's 22 minus 10? 12. And then we're going to look at the sign. So, which one of these is bigger? 22 is bigger. So, the sign of this 12 is going to be negative. So, negative 22 plus 10 is negative 12. So, at 5 p.m., a thermometer shows an outside temperature at 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Then, over the next 3 hours, the temperature drops 11 degrees Fahrenheit. What integer represents the thermometer reading in degrees at 8 p.m.? Now, what is the important information we're going to write down here? So the outside temperature drops to 11 degrees. Or it drops 11 degrees. That's what it says, not to 11 degrees. It drops 11 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Is that a positive or a negative?
Negative.
Very good. So that is a negative 11, okay? What else is important there? That the starting temperature is 2 degrees Fahrenheit, okay? So we're going to start here. Is that positive or negative? That's a positive, so that's a positive 2. So we want to know what integer represents the thermometer reading at 8 o'clock. So we're going to start at 2, and we're going to add that negative 11. Is everybody clear? So what do I do to the digits? What do I do to the 2 and the 11? You subtract them. So 11 minus 2 is 9. And then we're going to look at the sign. Which one is bigger? The 11 is bigger. So my sign is going to be negative. So this is going to be negative 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Example 4 is add 3 or more integers. Now, when we're adding more integers, we want to add from left to right. Okay, so you want to add from left to right. Make sure you write that down. I want to add from left to right. So the first thing we want to do, okay, is we want to, and this is adding from left to right is the first way we're going to do it. So we can add these two, okay. So what is 74 minus 26? So this is going to be 48, and is it going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
Right, because this 74 is positive, right? So we have 48 plus a negative 14. So now I have different signs. Again, what do I do with the 48 and 14? You subtract them. So 48 minus 14 is 34. And which one is bigger? The 48 is bigger. And what's my sign going to be? Very good. So this is going to be a positive 34. Is everybody clear with that? And if you're showing your work correctly, of course, again, look, there is your inverted triangle. You can also combine all of your positives and combine all of your negatives, okay? So here we can combine the negative 14 and the negative 6. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite it so I can just put them together, okay? So we've got a negative 14 plus a negative 6 plus a positive 8. So now we can add the negative 14 and the negative 6. What's that going to give me?
Negative 20.
Right, because we have the same sign, we add the digits, right? And we keep the same sign. So that's going to be a negative 20 plus 8. Now I have different signs. What do I do with the 20 and the 8? You subtract. So 20 minus 8 is 12. And my sign is going to be negative because the 20 is bigger. Is everybody clear?
Yes.
An unmanned submarine is doing tests along the ocean bottom. The table shows the change in the depth of the submarine each minute for 4 minutes. What integer represents the total change of the depth of the submarine in feet after 4 minutes? So your important information is what's in the chart, right? So we want to know what integer represents the total change, right? So that means we want to combine all of these. Is everybody clear? So here we have all of the negatives. We're going to combine all of our negatives and then combine the positive. Is everybody with me? All right. So we're going to write this horizontally, okay? So we've got a negative 150 plus a negative 175 plus a negative 180 plus the positive 162. What do I do with all those negatives? You just add them all together. So I'm going to do some scratch paper work on the side. So here, when we put all of these negatives together, when we add them all together, we just add the digits and keep the same sign, we end up with a negative 505. So this together is negative 505 plus 162. So now I have a positive plus a negative. What do I do with those digits? You subtract. So we have 505 minus 162. So remember, when you have different signs here, right, different signs, you subtract the digits, see, subtract the digits, and then take the sign of the bigger digit, okay? So when I subtract 505 minus 162, that's going to give me 343. And because 505 is bigger than 162, my answer is going to be negative. So this is going to be negative 343 feet. This is your exit activity. So the last thing you're going to do is you're going to get on Khan and you're going to do the adding negative integers activity. Keep in mind, if you don't get the score that you want, you can do it again and again until you get what you want.